Welcome to the July 2022 meetup. This is our second month, both back in person and virtual. So it's good to have everyone. A reminder for those of you virtual, we have two ways you could chat with us. There is the YouTube chat right where you're watching this. You could chat right on YouTube, and we will be watching that. And if you have a question, we will ask it of our speaker throughout the question session. You can also use the monthly meetup chat in our Slack channel. And you can find that by going to nyhackr.org and clicking the little Slack icon. That's how you can find that. So before we even get started, actually before we do that, I'll just say jobs. Anyone in the room hiring? Noam, you're not hiring now? No, Noam's not hiring. Okay. I'm hiring an account executive and a part-time data scientist, or full-time, depending, remote, fully remote, whatever you're looking for. If you are virtual and you are hiring, and you obviously can't tell us because you can't stand up in the room and say hi, go to the job postings channel of the nyhackr Slack, and you can let us know that you are looking for a job there, or that you're hiring. Actually, if you're hiring, post a job. If you're looking for a job and you feel comfortable saying it, tell people you're looking. We've gotten many people jobs over the past 13 plus years of this meetup, so we'd like to get more people jobs. All right. Other things, August. We'll have that announced pretty soon. We'll have the August meetup, and then September, and so on and so forth. We'd like to thank Microsoft for hosting us here in their beautiful Times Square offices. We had the New York R conference last month, and some of you might have noticed that the videos are up online at the rstats.ai website and on our YouTube channel, and we will be putting out a more formal announcement about that. So if you want to check out the videos from this past year's, and actually all the years of the conference, go to rstats.ai to find it. We can put that link in the YouTube chat so people can get to it. If you're looking for previous videos of this meetup and slideshows, you can go to nyhackr.org. I keep mentioning that. And you can find about 13 years worth of slideshows and 6 to 8 years worth of videos, depending how many still exist on the various streaming services we have used over the years. I think that's all the announcements we have coming up because it's summer, things a little slower. We will have a Stan workshop coming up sometime, maybe August, September. We usually do the Stan workshop every summer. We'll see what time we do it this year. We just, it's a pandemic year, so we're still figuring it out. Other than that, I think that's all the normal announcements we usually have. I'm going to check my phone really quickly in case Nicole's shouting at me, telling me there's other announcements. No, I don't think there are. So, oh yeah, I forgot one more thing. People in the room, the pizza is from Pizzeria's Pizza. So if you go to bit.ly/pizza poll, vote on the pizza. We've had this poll running for 10 years now or whatever, for a long time, and you can see that we actually have a live data viz. If you go to nyhackr.org, you can see a live JavaScript visualization of the pizza poll. So everyone in the room, bit.ly/pizza poll, and let us know how the pizza is. It's from Pizzeria, and rank it on a scale from never again, poor, excellent, good, average, good, excellent, and check it out. We know we love our pizza here. All right, I think that's all the announcements I have. If I forget anything, I'm sure I could tell you at the end. Some of you may have noticed, if you didn't notice, you're in for a surprise, that Hugo is not speaking right now. Are you surprised? Okay, cool. I saw the look of someone. So basically, Hugo came all the way from Australia for other reasons, but he was supposed to speak tonight. And this morning, he sent me a text that he had a fever and he was coughing. He had a negative COVID test, but he still said, let's not come here, which is a smart move. So luckily, we had someone from not quite as far away, but at least a different hemisphere, only one different hemisphere, not two hemispheres, who on about a few hours' notice, about 6 hours notice, 7 hours notice, said, sure, I can speak. So I want to have, before we even introduce him, just a round of applause for Kirill for doing that. Golf clap if you're virtual. He's spoken here before about DM, which he's going to be speaking about again tonight. So I am very excited to see what has changed in the past. Actually, the last time he spoke was one of our last meetups before the pandemic started. Interesting timing, by the way. And we're all looking forward to everything that's changed since then. So everyone, please give a warm welcome. Before we give a warm welcome, remember, if you're virtual and you have questions, put it in the YouTube chat. And I will ask the question of Kirill later, all right? If you're in person, when we have questions, just raise your hand and ask the question, all right? We all remember how to do that, hopefully. So, first time we've been back in person in a while. It's only our second in-person meetup. So everyone, hope you have a great virtual time. Hope you have a great in-person time. Hope you enjoy the pizza. And virtual people, If you got pizza, let us know where you got it from. If you got some inferior food, let us know where you got that from too. All right? Let us know. Let's have a good time enjoying our food virtually with each other. With that, please everyone virtually give us an emoji in person. Kirill, thank you for filling in for us. That was awesome for you.
Thank you.
Let me give you the mic.
So does the sound work?
It will work. Yeah, you're not going to hear it in the speakers because it's purely on. It's purely in the live stream.
Okay. So thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight here. It's been a couple of years and a bit since we were here last time, also with my two daughters here, also visiting New York on the move to DC. So it was just great timing. I asked Jared before I was coming here, and he said, no, the meetup is full. So, well, I guess that's just how life is sometimes. This is my presentation, or a version of the presentation I'm going to show at our StudioConf. It's
Pause for 1 second. Our live stream isn't working. The
tables, it's a bit scary, isn't it? So we wanted to build a Shiny app that would allow us to filter in this data set consisting of multiple tables in all those various tables to get details about the result set. And we did this. We built 800 lines of variant of the code shown here in the end. And the best thing about this, when the data model changes, the code just stays the same. This wouldn't have been possible with the original joining code. So I called it a success. Others called it a success too. Amazing treasure, lifesaver. So Niels, Gary Cadley, thanks a lot. And thanks for everybody who filed issues and contributed pull requests to the package. You're awesome. Now, I still have 1 day to make this happen.
You're back.
Okie doke. The YAM version 1 is still not on CRAN. I'm sorry about that. Sometimes the internet just doesn't do what we want it to do. But it will be today or tomorrow. So we are stable, and you can try today from GitHub, from our universe. You can try tomorrow from CRAN. And there is an RStudio Cloud setup that will get you a remote RStudio session with everything pre-installed with the click of a button. So yeah, this list just has grown. We have a ton of dependencies, and we're kind of proud of it because it wouldn't have been possible to build a thing like we built without all those amazing people helping us building the groundwork. So kudos as well here. Yeah, this is us, right? And maybe you have seen this before, but I'm going to repurpose this meme today. So which of these tools has the notion of the active data set, right? Can you guess? So one car, one data set, many cars, many data sets. It's that simple. R doesn't have the active data set, and that's a good thing. So it took me a while to realize that data management is a bit different from data analysis. So this is the form of data you would probably like to have for analyzing data. You have one table. You have all your data lined up, rows, columns, cells with atomic values. It's all great, except there's duplication in those highlighted parts on the left. Now, duplication isn't great if you want to clean or manage your data. If you try it white form, that's better, except it's not. Those column names make me want to transform this into longer form just right after I see this. So yeah, one table is not enough, and the conclusion is, the consequence is, we want the M because that's what the M is doing, helping us with handling more than one table. Right? So you're probably familiar with those concepts very briefly. At the top right, that's what a DM object contains. Tables, primary keys, foreign keys. The data set we've seen before can be decomposed into two tables. One entity table at the right, a measurement table at the left. We have measurements linking to entities. There's a foreign key from the measurement to the entity and two primary keys. That's what it looks like with the DM package. So that's the part where the demo comes. I don't have the video recorded yet, so which means I'm going to do this live. We have a new Shiny app that gets you started with DM. Because really, it's a lot of material to read just to get started. It's unclear, will it help you right away, or will it just make your life more complicated? I think we have, since we spoke last time, made a few improvements that help you get started easier and that help integrate the package into your workflows a bit better. So here it comes, the Shiny app that would help you in two cases. So first, when connecting to a database and you see something like this is AdventureWorks, if you're familiar with that, help you find your ways and get something that's a bit easier to work with. So I could zoom in, I could pick the tables I want, maybe this, I don't know. Is this useful? Let's see. I'm going to select. Oh no, I don't know job candidate. I don't need job candidate. So probably I'm going to need to select all of them again, but I'm sure this can be worked on. So I'm building not the data model, but I'm getting code that will give me a DM object based on what I have on the database with the real data behind it. So I can instantiate it, I can draw it, and I can work with it. So from database to a DM object, that's, I would say, just like connecting is, once you're connected to the database, you have half of your work done. This would be kind of the other half. We help you here. You have the data, the normalized data ready for your further preparation rearrangement in the R session as lazy tables. So we rely on dplyr to keep this on the database for as long as possible so that we don't unnecessarily get all the data ahead of time. In the other case, when we're starting with data frames, the user interface helps us here as well. So I have no idea why this is happening. So let me just retry. Okay. So data frames don't know about primary keys or foreign keys, so we have to teach them. So this is the NYC flights data, which is used throughout the DM package, and it also lives in a separate package. So if I read the documentation, I know FAA is a primary key in this table. Airlines has carry as a primary key. And for the planes, we have the tail num. And once we have that, we can start linking the tables together. So if tail num is the primary key, maybe I'll be lucky. No, I need to select it. I can select the tables, add the keys with immediate visual feedback. So, I mean, I guess you get the idea. So that's the new Shiny app. Oh yeah, of course. What would that be without coloring? Oh, I messed up. And it is tricky. But with the undo, and you get the code into your console, ready to copy paste into your R script, so that this is for you to be used not only once, but throughout your work with this data. Okay. The other major improvement, so this is again the flights data. The other major improvement consists in helping analyze the data with DM. So for a long time we had the concept of zooming, which looks like this. So there will be an animation. If we aggregate the flights table, let's say we count the number of flights by origin, or we compute some average delay by origin or something. That's a group by summarize in dplyr. And if we zoom, we can zoom into the table, perform the aggregation, and get the results. And that result's going to be connected with the table, with the airports table that the origin column points to, because it's smart about it. So the aggregation has led to a new primary and foreign key determined automatically. And we also get help with joins. So if we, when zooming into flights, say left join airports, we can omit telling which columns to join by, because of course the relationship is inferred from the data model. So, but I believe zooming is a concept that's difficult to grasp, more or less. But what could be even a larger obstacle is if you have existing code, you're not going to rewrite everything just to use zoom. Which is why we worked on a way to deconstruct the M object into separate tables, have dplyr, tidyr verbs work with the deconstructed tables, keeping the features that we had in zooming. So we know about join columns, we know what happens after a summarize, and we can later put it together into a new DM object. And primary and foreign keys will be inferred from those separate tables. And before you ask how does this work, I'm not going to tell you now, but we can talk about it later. Should we do a live demo maybe? Let's do a live demo. Nothing can go wrong. And it's all well prepared and in short-term memory, so I'm going to remove this because that's going to confuse otherwise. So again, flights data. Is this large enough? Probably it's not. I'm going to need this to be visible. Okay. So the get tables is old, keyed equals true is new. So when we do this, And we look at what flight becomes. Flights, the central fact table. We see that it knows about the keys. So the encoding is a bit confusing. There's no primary key, but no incoming and 4 outgoing foreign keys in this table. Same if we look at airports. Primary key, FAA column, 1 incoming foreign key. So if we do the join, note it's not talking to us about this is by something. No, it knows that this is the join that I'm intending to do, and everything just works. And this wouldn't have to work with the flights data because the columns are named differently, right? That is with the flights data from the package. With keyed tables, this works. So same with the aggregation. If I aggregate by origin, I get all those foreign keys. So it's just 1 in reality, but it's displaying me it's 4. And when I put everything together, it is the resulting data model that has by origin as a new table with foreign keys inferred, and I have no idea why the primary key is not inferred. I'm going to look into that. So this is to sum up what we want to achieve. So the deconstruct doesn't quite exist yet, but we will probably make it part of the Shiny app. We will get the code that gets us table objects from the DM object, which we then can plug into our dplyr workflows as usual. And when putting it back together, it will keep the primary and foreign keys. So I'm going to show a couple of use cases here. The first is a Shiny app that replaces a robust, well, not so much. It replaces an Excel workflow. So this is for managing contracts. We have a 2-stage process, individual contracts that have to be specified with some detail, which then are grouped together in a 2nd stage. And this gives an overall contract. So think about companies operating multinationally that where each individual contract would correspond to one country. Right? This is a screenshot of the first stage. So we see the database front end, projects, quote families, quotes, and so forth. That's the data model behind it as a DM. The first stage is at the bottom in the orangish colors. The 2nd stage comes at the top. And what we can do with DM is we can read a quote with all these details, get it into our local R session as data frames in one swoop, operate on it, put it back to the database. Very simple with DM. If we had to code it by hand, it would have been a bit repetitive. Still possible. I believe DM is making this easier. Plus, of course, with all these relationships in our R session, we can reason about the data easier than if we just had decomposed tables, especially since the 2nd stage has a link to the 1st stage. Things become a bit hairy. When working on this and other projects, something has become apparent that was hidden before. It comes as the big idea on the last slide, but maybe I could just as well talk about it now. So if you think about this data, if you think about the quote and all the details for the quote, and maybe with details of the corresponding quote family and the project. representing this as a bunch of related tables is close to the database, but maybe that's not the most natural way to work with this kind of data. And nested tables, nested and packed tables, are gaining traction. So there is first-class support in Arrow, which is the de facto standard for analytic data. That's coming up and getting a lot of traction. Built-in support for InductDB, Postgres had them. So we could represent a quote and all the details and also all the quotes at once as one nested table with details on coverage and on the subsequent tables in nested columns, details on the quote family, and on the project in packed columns. And we have a function in DM to achieve this. So we start with quote and DM wrap table. That's what the function is called. Could show a demo later, but it's not planned. Converts this thing into one single nested data frame automatically, and we're getting database support in the next release, not now. It's a bit hairy in itself with databases. And on the other end of the spectrum, so if this was a web API, what would the response look like? If we asked for a quote and all the details, it would be a JSON with all those details in deeply nested items. And from JSON, we get to the same nested tibble, nested data frame, with the amazing tibblify package, which is on cron again as well, which I think is enormously underrated for what it can do, because together DM and tibblify can do the bridge from deeply nested data to relational data model and vice versa seamlessly and automatically-ish. There is a bit of detail here. Again, I'm going to just skip that. I think DM version 2 will be more about making this really, really straightforward. For now, we have help with working with relational data model, and that's very useful in itself. Have I shown this before? I have shown this before. So why restrict ourselves to a single data model? Because, well, we are R, we can do anything we want. For another customer, we have used DM in a complex ETL pipeline. Each box in this diagram would be a data model in itself. The arrows represent transformations between those data models. Each stage, we call them stages, gives better guarantees for data integrity, data quality, and so forth. And at the right-hand side, we have data sets that are ready for analysis, flat or sometimes nested. There is no built-in support for this kind of ETL. It's a bit handwritten right now, but I believe this is also better suited to be presented in documentation rather than having a framework for this, because it's going to be difficult to make this work for everybody's use cases. So I talked about this, and yeah, this is us. So I had great help from my team at cynkra, which for preparing the release of version 1. And yeah, if you're interested in our Studio Server installation or our Studio Connect installation, or in general our consulting, we'd be happy to talk about it. That's all I had for today.
Just see if there's any chat. All right, so stay up there. There's questions. You don't get to leave. $$ flights, does that copy the data to a new object, or does that just point to the data frame that lives in DM?
So does this question relate to the database or the data frame scenario?
The data frame scenario. So earlier when there's a thing like keep tables was an argument, you said it's a new argument.
Uh-huh.
And then you did like flights gets tibble dollar flights.
Yeah.
Is that
So
copying the data frame or is it pointing?
something that's maybe important to point out, DM fits into how the tidyverse thinks, in the sense that all DM objects are immutable. So with any operation on a DM object, you get a new DM object. We never alter data in place, except in one case that helps us with the contracts project, but it says then in place equals true. For everything else, you get a copy, but R has copy on write. Pass by reference, copy on write, which reduces the burden on copying the data. It doesn't eliminate it, but if you just put in a data frame that's 1,000,000 rows into a DM object, you're not going to copy data just with this process. Does that answer the question?
It does. And then I guess I'll follow up with that. When you're creating the DM object out of a bunch of data frames, you're not duplicating memory because of the path by reference.
Because of how R works. So we're just like using this feature.
Cool.
Uh-huh.
I have another question from virtual land. Does anyone in the room have a question?
That was my question.
Oh, cool. You guys know what I said that. All right. Then since we co-opted Noam's question, are there still limitations about creating a cycle between tables?
I'm glad you asked. So what's very new in DM version 1, maybe this will be 101, just because Crown closes tomorrow. Let me fire up the Shiny app again. So we have a new operation called remove cycles. And it is confusing because that's really the simplest case where you have parallel edges. And what remove cycles does with parallel edges is something like this. We duplicate the target table, and that removes the cycles. And from then on, those are independent tables conceptually, like views on the same data, and we don't have this restriction anymore. Now, this operation requires a starting table, and this is important because depending on what your unit of analysis is. So the starting table would be roughly the unit of analysis. If we're looking at airports and remove the cycles, the result looks like this. Come on. The result looks like this. We're duplicating everything except the airports table. But if you think about it, we're analyzing airports by origin, airports by destination. We need those copies. If those would be wrapped into a nested tibble, we would have a copy of the flights data for origin and a copy of the flights data for destination. So for us, it kind of makes sense. And this was the initial motivation for building the Shiny app, just this operation, because this is so mind-bogglingly confusing. The button gives us the preview, and we believe that's going to be the solution.
Anyone else have a question? Because I got one for me. In the past, using this, when I tried pointing to like an entire Postgres database, it couldn't pick up the keys. And I'm wondering if that's because I know there's two different releases, 3 different ways to interact with Postgres. There's the R Postgres package, the Postgres package, and the ODBC package. Is there an issue with like using the right driver package, or is it something else?
So behavior is different depending on the driver package. We have to look into it because schema discovery is inconsistent as hell across databases. So we're special casing basically for every database we care about, which at this time are Postgres, SQL Server, of course, Maria, DuckDB is going to be our first class citizen very soon. They need to sort a few things out, and we might help with that. And of course, SQLite, but everything else we will have to do on a case-by-case basis. So if it doesn't work, you can always do it by hand. It could work a bit better than it used before, because what I haven't presented here is a concept for describing the metadata in a database agnostic way. So there is now this, we call it meta format, and we have adapters for the different databases, and we hope that this will make it easier for us to support databases that might not work today.
So should we contact the author of DBI?
Could be an option. Well, I don't think DBI is the right place for this. Maybe the DM maintainer would be the right person to talk to.
Yeah. I have a question along those lines. So can you use DM to set the keys in the database? So if you have a database where you don't have keys defined, right, can you use DM to set up the relationships within the database?
Oh, that's a very interesting thing. So you're proposing the situation when you have existing tables that you don't want to recreate, but you just want to add the foreign keys.
Yes.
And primary keys. Not yet, but this does seem interesting. What?
R has a very limited and rudimentary APIs for writing into databases, because it's much more common that people pull from databases and manipulate databases. And so
yes, but some of that has changed recently too.
yeah, I mean, there's a little more of that in everything, and this is one of them in terms of like when you are, setting up and building a database. We end up doing that primarily in R2, but you end up writing SQL to do it, to set your set types and set keys and do things like that. And so sometimes it's just that rather than teach the team to write the SQL to assemble the database structure, if we could do it in R, that's great. And so this, I would imagine this is, we can define a data model in R and then apply it to the database.
So what you can do today is take your data model object and copy it to the database, create tables, primary keys and foreign keys in one operation. What's not possible to separate those two, but I believe this could already work for you. So let me give you a bit of detail of how we implemented this. So there is a kind of a chicken and egg problem. Let me explain. So each of these arrows is a transformation, and how do we know the result of the data transformation without executing it? So in general, we don't. But in R, we can actually execute this transformation on a zero row DM object on the database or locally. And I mean, on a database, if you don't execute it, it doesn't matter if it has any rows in it or not. Executing will give you the structure, we call it p-type, of the target data model. So when building a new stage, so this is the process of many iterations, we didn't build it at once. When building a new stage, we start with the compute function. So the compute function gives us, basing on one or several input stages, the resulting output stage. And we can run this with 0 rows to get the structure of the output stage. We write it to the database, just the structure, tables, primary keys, foreign keys. And then we use the same compute function to populate it with the data. So we get a DM object that describes for the case where you do a full load. So it's a bit different with incremental load, but in the case of a full load, we get a DM object that has the data as lazy tables. And we just copy all of them at once into the existing structure. So we always separate creation of the target schema from population.
So in that comes, you say create a new table that has keys, that is linked to the other tables, and then upload just that table.
You create a DM object that has the structure. You write it to the database without the data, just the structure. And this gets you tables, primary keys, foreign keys out of the box for the major databases. And then you run this with the data, and you get your target data as lazy tables on the database. Or if you have it as local data frames, that's also cool. You have to copy them to the database and actually write them to the table. But DM has good support for this. So I shall definitely write this down into an article at some point, maybe not today. But we can surely talk about details later.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm particularly excited to use this to write multiple tables at the same time.
So there is a DM_rows API, and that's what I was mentioning. So dplyr has gained a new rows_API, rows insert, rows append. That was important for DM to have. Rows update and so forth. That takes a target data set as an X argument and a source data set as a Y argument. And so, for instance, for rows append, it will unconditionally add the rows in Y to X. Now, the in-place argument describes if this is a preview. In-place false gives you a preview, which is pretty cool in itself. In-place true requires the target to be something that you can write to, and it will actually put the data into your database. And we have extended this with DM rows, insert, append, update, and so forth. So it's not as useful as it sounds, unfortunately. We'll have to work on that because of auto-incrementing primary keys. So that's where DM insert fails a bit, and we had this with this project because all of those IDs are auto-increments, and we need to do a bit of footwork to fix this, but I believe this case is common enough so that we could support this out of the box in DM. But this is getting really geeky now. just stop it.
I actually, on your advice, I use like DM to insert, and I'm definitely getting some duplicate key issues.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So we're doing footwork here, but could work better in one of the next releases.
All right. I think I got those questions. I'll give everyone in the room a last chance to ask any questions before we wrap up. And those who choose to go to the bar. How about folks, if we go to the bar, if you don't want to drink alcohol, they have non-alcoholic beverages there too, and you have food probably, right? But no one can leave without eating pizza. Any questions from the audience? All right, cool. Thank you very much for filling in such short notice.
Thank you.
All right, so folks, everyone, thank you for coming. Our second, both in-person and virtual meetup. I hope everyone enjoyed it. The slides will go up as soon as Kirill emails it to us, and the video is already up on our YouTube channel. The nyhackr site should be updated possibly tonight. It updates a few times a day, so it'll be updated with the, well, it won't be updated until it'll be updated with the video, but not with the slides until we get them. So it'll give us a day or two. We have the August meetup, and probably Hugo, who couldn't make it tonight. We're going to reschedule him for next month because he's still in America until, I guess, his visa runs out. So I think he has one more month to go. And then September, October, November, December, who wants to speak? If you want to speak, send me an email, send me a message on Slack, message me on Twitter, message me however you can find me. If no one messages me, I will pick people randomly and have them speak. We have done that before. It actually worked out really well. So I think that's everything. Everyone, bit.ly/pizza poll. Go to nyhackr.org to check out the previous slides and videos. Check out rstats.ai to check out the conference videos. And yeah, I think that's everything. Thank you everyone for coming, and I'll see everyone later. Bye.